I've fully had conversations with guys who have hit on me, like, out in the street, whatever, and he's like, I'm 17. And I'm like, no. Like, where are your parents? I'm so confused. What is the most difficult thing when it comes to being a black woman who may possibly be interested in the dating scene while she's in this country, Japan? My answer to that question is the thing that's most difficult is the fact that you can't really tell the difference between normal interest and romantic interest. What I mean by that is typically one of the things that we learn as we become adults and like mature in social settings and we learn social cues is that we're able to kind of pick up on behaviors that hint to us that someone may be romantically interested in us. And we're able to sort of differentiate that from platonic interest, just like a normal interest, right? The problem is that when you are black in Japan, and I'm pretty sure this goes both ways. It's not just for black women. Like, I've watched videos and seen content from social media from black men who live in Japan, and it seems to be pretty similar. But the problem is that the interest in you is so high, like physically, that it's very confusing to be able to differentiate between whether like a person is seeing you as just like a unicorn or like a beautiful unicorn. It's does that make sense? I have never tried to explain this concept out loud before, so please forgive me if it sounds absolutely crazy. Like, I'm doing my best to put my thoughts and experiences into words. So, for instance, when I go out on the street, right, it doesn't matter what I look like. I don't look like this on the daily, right? The only thing that is maybe very interesting about me, like, to me personally, is the fact that I'm taller and bigger than, like, most people on average, like, walking the street, right? I'm not usually done up. I don't look nice. My hair's always hidden. I don't wear makeup. I don't even dress nice, y'all. My clothes are getting raggedy. I wear the same shoes every day. My jacket is not attractive. Like, I live a very, I'd say common life when it comes to physical appearance. Like, I do not put much effort into my looks because I'm doing my best to just survive. For those of you who know, I am a grad student. I'm a PhD student. I live in a foreign country. I'm broke. Like, I'm doing my best to just, like, get by in life. My family's on the other side of the world. I'm not doing well. And so the last thing I have time for is to, like, make myself look, like, more exciting than I feel inside, which is most days, let's be honest, I'm not feeling much. So me being, like, looking, I don't know how I look to you guys. I assume a lot of my audience members are going to be black, so maybe I just look normal to you. But to me, this is like a done-up version of me. If you want to see what I look like on the daily, this is one good image. Like, I literally am doing my best to blend into the background, right? The point is, despite this effort, right? Despite the effort, not like I'm putting in effort into looking commonplace. It's just like, you know, me doing the absolute least. Despite living this way, like, I'm not even joking. The majority of people that I pass in the street, like outside, even inside, it doesn't really matter, that I pass in my daily life will turn around and look at me. Like, it doesn't mean that they're double taking or they have to physically, like, they wait till I pass and then they look back. I just mean, like, if I'm walking towards someone, like, that person will be looking at me, like at my face, at my body, like I can see them looking at me, right? Instead of just like focusing on the road in front of them, like their gaze shifts to look at me. Like, I'm not exaggerating. This is 90% of the people that I pass in the street. And the only reason I don't make eye contact with 90% of these people is because I'm the one averting my gaze, because it's just too physically exhausting. I can't, I'm so tired of like looking at everyone, looking at me. Like when you're trying to be an existence that wants to just be invisible and you're trying to just do the bare minimum to get by, like you're not trying to have any encounters that aren't necessary to your immediate survival, like it is absolutely exhausting. So this is just one element, right? The staring. This is one element of things that if we were in our home country or like the country that we were born and raised in, these are one of the social cues that you just sort of like learn through growing up and developing social skills. Like if someone's really staring at you, like usually that means they're interested in, like, something about you is very interesting. But the thing is, it doesn't happen so frequently. It doesn't happen so commonly. So if you're in that situation where like someone is just like really just staring you down and you cannot figure out what it may be, like you can go talk to that person, or they may come talk to you, and like then you'll know their intention. They're just like, "Hey, I'm sorry I was staring. I just think you're so beautiful. I'm so sorry. I couldn't like control my eyes," situation, right? And then you know. But the thing is, those situations are so unusual or rare or like small in number that you're able to then, kind of deduce, like, okay, is this person interested in me? Or maybe I did something weird with my hair today. I put on a different color that's unusual. Like, this person's new in my surroundings. You're able to, there's the number of variables is like so few that you're able to really deduce kind of a good, get close to maybe what it may be. So I didn't say that well, but usually what I want to say is that it's so uncommon that you're able to figure out whether it's platonic or romantic by either like then engaging that person and having a conversation, or chances are high that that person will engage you, because it's so uncommon, right? The problem in Japan is it's so common that like I just have to ignore all of it. I have to ignore all of it or I will lose my mind. Like, you can't be thinking like that every guy that you pass in the street who is gazing at you intensely, like, or they're in a group and they're like whispering about you while staring about you, you can't assume that that means anything. Because chances are high it doesn't mean anything, like in terms of like, dating interest or romantic interest. The problem is you are so visually striking and intriguing that they literally cannot help but notice you. Like it's like psychologically impossible for them to not look at you. Like that's the existence you are. Like that's the power your like physical presence holds. And I didn't want to like realize this for a really long time, because like I just have never thought that way about myself. I have always considered myself plain, like below average in terms of like attractiveness. Like you guys, I've grown up, I have self-confidence issues. And so like me coming here, it was really difficult to like kind of tell myself that, oh, people are like very interested in you because obviously you're very different to them. So like they're going to look. But two, a lot of these people do think you're just absolutely stunning. I can't with what is happening. Two, these people just like, a lot of them do think you are just visually absolutely like gorgeous. You're stunning. And they can't help but look. But the warning I want to give you is that all of the people that are like staring at you mouth agape, like not all of them are staring at you that way because they think you're just absolutely stunning. For some of them, they are stunned to see you. What that doesn't necessarily mean. It's because of your radiant beauty. Like, So that is the first part. People will stare at you until you feel like you have nothing private left of yourself, like in the public space. It is absolutely overwhelming. And one more thing before I move on, because honestly, y'all, the stairs are so, like, it's such a big part of my daily existence over these past 5-6 years that I can't, like, there's just so much to say. So, in addition to the actual, like, number, like the sheer volume of stares that I just get on the daily. And that's, once again, that's without me being done up. Like, can you imagine what happens when I wear a kimono? Can you imagine what happens when I go outside like this? Can you imagine what happens when I wear makeup? Or I got on heels? I go to a modeling it's exactly. I just, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But this is talking about me on the daily, looking basic. So even if you are a basic black girl and you come over here, you will be seen as the unicorn that you truly are. So don't worry about that. But the stairs, we're not done, right? So we got the sheer volume on one side. On the other side of the staring equation is the intensity. Y'all, one more story. So, give you more context. I'm going to tell you a story about me in college, right? This is the way I felt. So, when I went away to college, I had chopped off all of my hair for the first time. And I had maybe 2 inches of hair stretched. Right? So in its normal state, was rocking maybe like half an inch of hair, right, on my head. And that was a really big change for me emotionally and physically and mentally. So I truly believed for a long time that a lot of people were staring at me back in college because I just, like, they couldn't figure out if I was a girl or a boy, right? That's what I thought to myself. Once again, I don't know if that was true because I've never asked anybody to this day, but I had a complex about being stared at in my, like, late teens, like, early 20s, because I just thought I looked, like, absolutely terrible, right? So I got stares all throughout college. Fast forward to the 4th year, so I finally had some hair on my head, and I wore my hair natural all 4 years, whether it was short or, like, it got to the medium length, and I started wearing it in afros and bushy and really cute. I still got a lot of stares, even when my hair was longer, and the thing is, my view of myself never really shifted to being like, oh, now that I have more hair, people are staring at me because I'm beautiful. I really have no idea. But at some point in retrospect, like me now looking back, I'm like, I feel like I got a lot of stares because I looked different, but in a good way. So, one, I was black. I went to school in northern Arizona. I was on top of a mountain. It snowed all the time. Everybody was white but me. Basically, there was a very, very small percentage of people of color on this campus in this city, and I was one of them. And I'm on the darker side as well, so we've got that. So I was dark-skinned, and I had natural hair. And that's all I can go with. Like, I don't know what people thought about my style, what they thought about my physique, what they thought about my face. I have no idea. Those 2 things were very striking already where I lived. So the problem was, I feel like people were looking at me because I was different, which, let's be honest, has been my whole life. No matter where I was, I've always been stared at because I was different. It's just me deciding, like, what that actually means for myself has changed, like, as I've gotten older, right? Whether I determine that to be because I was, like, hideous, or because I was beautiful, or because I was thin, or because I was fat. Like, I can't tell you because I got mental issues. But just know that this has never changed. People have always stared at me my whole life. It's just that now I've decided it's because I'm black. In a country where there's nobody black. In college, it was still because I was black. But maybe that wasn't as bad. It's not the unicorn, like, to the intensity of unicorn as it is now, but it was still very different. And maybe back then, a lot of people did think I was cute. I don't know. Once again, I'm not going to be the one to tell you. But looking back now, I'm like, yeah, I was cute. But at the time, I didn't feel that. So the point is, when I got older, like when I was in my late college years, and I felt more beautiful, with the stares, I kind of assumed it wasn't because I was ugly at that point. Maybe it wasn't because I was ugly, but it probably was still because of my hair. But it was in a good way, right? I think people would compliment me on my hair every now and then. But it could have been, the point is, it could have been a whole range of things. It was my physical appearance. But what I want to say is the difference between that period and now, even though I was getting stared at a lot in America, and I'm getting stared at a lot now, once again, to reinforce, the volume of the stares is in a different world. Like, they're not even comparable. It's not even close. The 90%, maybe like 20%. Like, high to be a normal person, but still low, like, compared to the Japan situation, right? In addition to that, when I would be stared at in America, it was rare that I made eye contact with a person who was staring at me. Like, that is just, I feel like that's like a social thing that we all just know you're not supposed to do. Like, don't stare at someone so hard that they ever like meet your gaze. Like, you should not be doing that. I think we're all raised to know that that's rude as children. And so we do our best. Like, even if we do find someone like very interesting to look at, we do our best to make sure they don't know that we're staring at them, right? In Japan, I cannot tell you the amount of time I have met the gaze of the perpetrator. Like, head on, full on. And it's not even like, sometimes they do look away right after I notice them. Like, they know they've been caught, but sometimes they don't. Like, it's like you caught them in the act. It's a deer in headlights situation. Like, they didn't think they was gonna get caught. So when they do get caught, they're so shook that they don't know what to do. Like, they're like, do I look away? But I haven't seen enough. Like, their brain isn't computing. So I gotta be the one to be like, okay, let me break this stare because this is too much. Like, this is not how I want to spend the next 3 seconds of my time. So I meet the gaze of so many people in Japan that it's like disturbing. It's very uncomfortable. And this literally just happened yesterday. If I were to give you an anecdotal story, I was walking back to my house from, I don't know, the grocery store or something, and I was at a stoplight, waiting for the light to turn green. And it was just me, and then some guy was like standing a few feet away from me to my right. And so I'm looking across the street, waiting for the light to change, looking at the cars go by. And so I'm facing this way, right? I turn this way to look at the cars coming down the street just like a normal human being. And this man standing right here is staring at me like this. Like, unbelievable gaze. Like, I'm not even trying to meet his gaze, but he's just there when I turn around. And he does not avert. It's just, we looking at each other like, what, like, we looking. I'm like, is this just, all right. And he's got glasses on and a mask on, so all I can see is his eyes, just like, these are the stares where I can't tell whether they're good or bad. Like, you can't see any facial expression, like, his face is covered. He's just dead on gaze. And I'm like, all right, well, now I'm uncomfortable, so please allow me to excuse my own gaze so this moment can end, because that's all I want. So yeah, literally just happened yesterday. And once again, you're not going to meet the gaze of like everybody who's staring at you, but just know that like you going to meet a lot of blank stares in the most uncomfortable way. Like, they don't have, I mean, I'm sure some of them do have the social skills to look away, but it's so, you guys, I feel like it's so uncommon. Like, either they don't know that staring is rude, or they just literally cannot help it. Like, they have never seen what they're seeing. It's like an alien is coming down. Like, there's no way you're gonna look away because you're like, oh, I don't want to make them uncomfortable and know that I'm staring at them. Like, no, you go stare. This is a once in a lifetime experience. Like, it's that level. Y'all think I'm playing. I'm not playing. This is the only way I can make sense of like what I'm experiencing in like real life. So just be aware of that. So that's why I live my life the way I do. My friends are really surprised when I tell them, like early on in the game here, when I moved out to Japan, my friends would be like, oh, did you see that thing we just walked by, or that person we just walked by, or did you notice that? And my answer was always no. And they're like, do you not see these things? And I was like, I typically don't look up when I'm walking. And if I do, it's like, the way I look is to dodge the gaze or where people are looking for like the entire crowd of where I'm looking. So I'll either look over the heads of people, or I'll look under their faces, like toward the feet, or like legs so that I can see where I'm going. But I do not walk with my head straight up like a normal person, with my eyes like at the same level of other people's eyes. And the reason that, like, it took me a long time to realize this, the reason is because I'm so exhausted at seeing everyone seeing me. Like, seeing everyone looking at me is just like unbelievably exhausting. And I ended up doing this like unconsciously. So it took me a long time to realize. I was like, I don't know why I didn't see that person who literally just walked right in front of me, or was right next to me, or came up just behind me. And it was like, oh, I've developed a coping mechanism to keep my sanity. Like, I cannot look at the eye level of people when I'm walking, because it's just, I'm gonna see too many eyes on me. And me growing up as a person who like had no confidence in myself, I always wanted attention to be off of me. Seeing people look at me made me very uncomfortable, because it made me think that they were looking at me because I was so hideous. And they were thinking thoughts along those lines. And it was just really, really, really hard for me. And so even though I'm an adult now and I don't think I'm like so ugly anymore, it's like, you know, those seeds, those traumas you have as a child, kind of like, I don't know if they ever leave. They kind of seem to just stick with you forever to some extent. So yeah, this is the thing I have. The stares, they hurt me. So I haven't talked to any other Black women about this. Perhaps if you're a person who's had more self-confidence growing up, or you're more confident in the way you look, or that kind of thing, you probably will be thriving in this environment. But for me, it's kind of overwhelming and a bit anxiety inducing. So that's the way I keep my sanity in these public places. Anyways, that was just point number one. So the reason why it's so difficult to tell romantic interest from platonic interest or casual interest is just because, like, literally everyone is expressing those signs of interest in you, just from like a herd perspective, like a social skills perspective. We've got the staring like bit is out of control. Okay, another thing before I leave the eye contact, because I really need you guys to understand like how confusing this is. Like, it's really, although I have a few other points as to like what social cues are like confusing, this is the biggest. It's so, I don't know how to explain how anyone ever knows what's happening with the amount of like attention that they get visually from men. I don't know how anyone's just like, oh, yep, this guy's into me, like, or this person wants to be friends with me, and they can just clearly make decisions based on like the way they live their life out in the world, because I don't got it. Whatever these people have, I don't got it, because Japanese people are just sending confusing signals with like the intensity of their gaze. So one more example before I go off of the staring, because I need this should really be hitting home, is okay, we've covered the like making ridiculous eye contact like from strangers, just because, and then the sheer volume of them all still strangers. The third element is like really intense eye contact even when people do approach you. So when they finally go from like stranger to like, I don't know, someone engaged in conversation with you, this has all just been people on the street, y'all. Like, nobody's talking to me. Not a single like hello or whatever. It's just walking or standing in a public space. Like, all this is happening, and it's just like absolutely overwhelming. So what happens if someone does choose to engage you, right? You would think that, like, okay, from the social skills we learned as children in, like, America or wherever you grew up, that, like, as I was mentioning before, if someone's, like, really checking you out, right, the eyes, like, there's no doubt, and then they come over and talk to you, like, then from there you can find out whether or not they're interested in you romantically. But, like, chances are high they're interested, like, they think you're attractive, and so they want to get to know you, right? That's like a pretty like easy to understand thing when you become an adult. Like, we all learn this. Japan though, right? So that cannot be guaranteed. I've had a lot of conversations. Men have entered into conversation with me after, you know, maybe staring at me from however far the distance, because the distance is wide. Like, there's no barrier. Anything's a go. I'll notice someone staring at me, and then they end up engaging me in conversation within the next few minutes or whatever. You would think, right? Okay, maybe this person want, like, as I said before, maybe they're interested in me. They think, whether they think I'm beautiful or not, they think I'm visually interesting. And that was enough to spur them into, like, conversation with me, to get them to come talk to me. And so this happens. And in my past experience, this does not always mean this man, like, is interested in getting to know you for, like, a date or whatever. So if I can give you an example from my very recent past, let's see, it's currently the beginning of the second week of January. It's January 9th. And on New Year's, I went out with my friends, and we went to some shrines and did, like, New Year's activities, right? And at one of the shrines, we were sitting down chilling by a bonfire, and we ended up, like, in conversation with the group next to us. So the group, it was me and two Japanese friends, and then the group looked like foreigners, but they were actually, like, one of them was, like, basically Japanese. He was half Japanese. And what I noticed before we engaged in conversation with this group was that guy, right, that I just mentioned, was, like, he was hardcore staring at me for, like, a long time, right? Like, not the kind of, like, shy gaze where, like, we're used to in America, where if someone might want to talk to you, and they kind of, like, you catch them looking at you, but then they avert their gaze. And then you look away, and you think they might be looking at you, so you look back, but then they're not looking at you, right? That kind of situation? No. In Japan, it's just full on, like, as I mentioned, the stare is straight, it's hard, it's locked on, they don't stop. They don't feel the discomfort. It's just you feeling the discomfort. So I kept seeing this guy, right? He wasn't too far, but it was this kind of stare. It was and so I was like, here we go again. I'm not even going to try to figure this out, because here I am in my, like, year 6. I don't have time to figure out what all these stares mean. I'm done. Like, I just want to live my life. So I figured it wouldn't become anything. I figured he wouldn't talk to me, because that's, as I mentioned, like, usually there's too many of them, they don't. Lo and behold, within the next, like, 10 minutes, we're somehow engaged in conversation. This guy comes over and he starts talking to the group, my group, right? And eventually he makes his way over to me, right? Because I'm in a group of 3, my 2 Japanese friends and me. And he talks to the one closest to him, and then the one in the middle, and then he gets to me, right? It's like he was working his way over. And when he makes eye contact with me, even when we're, like, now this close, because we're in conversation, the gaze is just as intense, y'all. It's really intense. Like, I'm talking Jasper Twilight vibes. Like, it's just... And I'm like, all right, so now that he's speaking to me, I'm like, clearly, like, I don't think I was wrong. Like, I think this is the intense gaze that means, like, he's kind of interested. And now he's come over to talk to me. So my social skills from high school have told me this man might be interested in me. Like, we might be a similar age. I don't know. Fast forward. This man, I find out eventually, he's married with a child. So, right, that just means clearly he could not have been interested. So, all this to say, there's no way to tell, y'all. I'm telling you the truth. You will never, ever know if a man is interested in you, because he's not going to tell you. I mean, if he does, maybe it'll take months and months and months. I don't really know. But in my experience, like, you cannot tell from this first encounter. You cannot tell from the day you first met, from the first conversation, because everyone just wants to get to know you. And even the people who have the courage to come and talk to you still, like, even the ones who are married are going to come talk to you, I guess. And the ones who aren't looking for, like, dating are going to come talk to you if they find you so interesting. So, y'all, that was just the staring part. I might split this into 2 videos because it's just out of control. But, alright, if I don't split it into 2 videos, let's move on to the next point. The next thing that makes it so difficult for Black women to date in Japan is that you get a ton of compliments from strangers. I don't just want to say strangers because this is about dating. You get a lot of compliments from men. And I feel like this may change depending on the demographic you're in. So I tend to, I don't know, don't ask me these questions, y'all. I don't know the answers. I'm just going to tell you what happens in my life. I tend to get a lot of attention from, like, young guys. So, like, early college, like maybe even high school. They seem to be in like the 18 to like 20, I don't know, whatever range, but it starts young. Like I've fully had conversations with guys who have hit on me like out in the street, whatever, and he's like, I'm 17. And I'm like, no. Like where are your parents? I'm so confused. So just to give you some information on like what's happening in my situation, my demographic, they tend to be young, so this could change like the older I get, the older whatever the age is, right? But the guys who talk to me in the street or they try to get my attention in the street often tend to be like really young. And they'll be in groups. Typically Japanese men are very shy, so like for them to, they don't just want to talk to you out in the street unless they're like really young and they're like being encouraged by their friends, right? They're in a big group. It's very unusual to find a Japanese guy to just talk to you in the street because you're so beautiful, unless he's drunk. That does happen. That definitely happens. Depends on the time of night. It depends on the district you're in. If you're in a red light district or an area with a lot of clubs and bars, and you know it's nighttime, all the salarymen are drunk, like they might come talk to you. But just on a like normal day out in the street, I will get young guys like in groups coming to talk to me or like walking by like shouting at me like in the street, right? And yeah, once again, I'm sure this changes with the demographic, so don't expect this to be everyone. But the problem is I get this kind of attention out in the street and like even just from like normal people and from girls. I get like girls, they'll walk by and they'll say kawaii or like, oh, ashina guy, like, you know, she's cute and her legs are long or her style's so nice, her body looks great. But they're not usually like full like face-to-face engagement. It's like a passing by, like they say in passing by, right? It's a very Japanese thing. I'm not going to talk about it in this video. But the problem is you get this attention or this kind of behavior like often. So even if it comes from guys, like it's you can't take that to mean that they think anything other than like what's happening in that moment. Like they see you physically and they're very like surprised by what they see. So they either comment on it, they tell you, they might compliment you, or they whisper about it to their friends and they walk by and they're laughing and smiling at you or just all looking at you. Like this is a thing that happens. Where if this happened in your like home country or where you were born and raised, that would definitely be an unusual sign. Like that's a thing you would need to like take heed to because something is happening, right? That's not something you just like walk away and ignore, like, oh, but no, normal day, like there's a big group of men like whispering and like smiling at me as I walk by, or like you know, guys like chasing after me in the street. Like it's not usually that intense, but like in Japan, what I'm saying is like even the like that kind of stuff doesn't mean anything here, or there are still chances that it doesn't mean something here, even though it's such unusual behavior for like a young woman to receive. Like you can't take that to mean anything romantically, or that person has any interest past the like enormous shock factor of your initial presence. Like it's just so profound that they it makes them act out in like these crazy ways. So yeah, that's the second thing. You may get a lot of compliments from like maybe even men out in the streets and stuff, but they do this like that doesn't mean that they're interested in you like romantically, or they want to date you, or they want to get your number, or even that they think you're the most beautiful girl they've ever seen. It's just you're the most interesting girl that they've seen maybe today. And that warrants that kind of behavior from them. So take heed. It's very confusing. No men just running up to you in the street telling you you're beautiful on a like random Friday night outside of the bar down the street does not mean that this man wants to date you. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, next. Last thing I want to add to this topic of what I think makes it so difficult for Black women to date in Japan is this point in that a lot of Japanese people may just be interested in foreigners. They may not necessarily be interested in you. So I'm going to bring this down back to my situation. So there are a lot of Japanese boys, men, whatever, who are interested in finding, like, in dating foreign girls just because they want something different, right? There's a lot of reasons. But one of the main reasons is that they want to learn English, and so having a foreign girlfriend is kind of like a fast ticket, or like a ticket to learning English, right? Or getting to go live in another country. If they get married to a foreign girl, they can move abroad type thing, right? This whole going abroad or like English narrative is very strong. And so chances are high that you're going to attract these kind of men, right? Not to say that there's anything wrong with that. It's just important to be aware, because if you're not, once again, you're going to get all of this attention from like these Japanese guys, and it's going to make you think that they're interested in you. But they're not. They're interested in your nationality. They're interested in your mother language. They're interested in your English level. Like saying they want to use you is kind of like harsh. I wouldn't go that far to say that. But the reality is, if you go into this kind of situation, like you fall for that flattery, right? Because you think that interest means he wants to date you because you're like a normal person and normal social skills dictate that that's what that means. And you like fall for that here in Japan. Then later when you find out that he was interested in you because you were American, or I don't know, maybe from Britain, or you speak excellent English, and maybe he like moves on to another foreign girl one day, and you finally realize it, like you're the one who's gonna feel used. Right? You're gonna feel real used, and it's gonna be really horrible. So I just want to warn you beforehand that that is a thing that happens, and it is very common. So if a guy approaches you, and I mean, it's harder to tell if you're a foreign girl who doesn't speak Japanese, because that means all the Japanese men who approach you are going to be speaking in English. But in my case, one of the things that I've been able to use to like ward off these like men is the fact that I do speak Japanese pretty fluently. And so if they come to me speaking English, I'm going to speak back in Japanese. And when they respond in English anyways, I'm going to continue fighting back in Japanese. Like I don't have the patience anymore to entertain these guys. I don't give my time to these people. So they gonna know that like I don't have time for your games. Like if that's what you want from me, you not gonna get it. So like please move on, because both of us, like, we not getting any younger, you know? But if you're the kind of person who doesn't speak Japanese, then you don't really have a kind of like a filtering or sorting method for them. So you have to just be extra careful. Just make sure they take you on proper dates and you vet them well before you agree to, like, I don't know, actually become a partner with this person, right? So all that to say, yes, being a black woman and trying to date in Japan is just absolutely unbelievably confusing. There are no rules. Basically, we live in like a world that's backwards from how we were raised to believe the world worked, and it's very confusing. It does not get easier. I'm still confused. It's been 6 years and I've just given up. Like, I've just stopped trying because it's not worth my time. It's how I've come to see it. It's just too much, like, effort for like too little return. So I've got other things I've decided I can focus on, and dating is not one of them anymore. But if that's you, just know that it's not impossible. Just you may have a very hard time, possibly, and that the learning curve can be steep, but it's not impossible. So if that's really what you want, feel free, definitely come here and give it a try. Don't let me be the one to deter you. I just want you to be equipped with knowledge of the truth of to how things are here, and unfortunately it's not as black and white, as easy as I'd like to tell you it is, or maybe it may be in your home country. And then one last note I want to leave with you is that a lot of the weird things we deal with trying to date as foreigners in Japan, like, they're not actually exclusive to being black or being any particular race. Most foreigners, like, are going through the same issue. So whether you're black, white, or like, Hispanic, wherever you come from and you want to date Japanese boys, you gonna struggle as well. So look forward to that if that's you. Just I wanted to give my perspective of being a black woman, because that's what I am, but just know that most of us are dealing with the same issues. So yeah, I want to introduce you to the perspective from my other friends as well who aren't black. So we're going to do a video together as well, most likely. And yeah, that's it. If you guys are interested, I'll see you guys in the next video. Mata ne. Bye.